Welcome to today's video. What we're going to work on now is actually a visualization using the data that we have pulled previously in the last two videos. In the last two videos I showed you how to access FBref, the data in FBref. So this data here, we have pulled the data, cleaned it, manipulated it, and what we have done is we finally placed it inside of this Excel sheet. So now we're going to pull this data for a particular player to create a visualization the same as this. This is a radar chart created with the soccer package, mplsoccer, and an excellent package for anybody to get into to learn visualizations. This is the package here, and you can find the two gentlemen at the bottom down here, Andrew and Anmol. I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly, but this is the code that I have edited. A lot of their visualizations, if not all of them, use data from StatsBomb. I have changed it, edited it, so I can use it with FBref data. So a lot of these charts, you'll see the code in here, as it says here, StatsBomb. So the code, and I've done a lot of this and changed it to use with FBref data. So let's get going. First thing we need to do, as usual, is to pull in all the packages. I'm just going to copy and paste. I don't want you to have to watch me fumble through the keys. It extends the length of the video, and I want to get through this as quick as I can so you can get on to making visualizations. So we will use Pandas for data manipulation, NumPy for numerical computations, SciPy for statistical functions, then math for mathematical calculations, and then, as you can see from mplsoccer, pyPizza, add image, font manager, radar, which is the visual we made, a grid, and then also matplotlib allows to do plotting and so forth. So those are the packages that we need. We're going to hit run. It will pull those in. It took a moment, but as I say, it's pulling those in for the first time, so we are good to go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull in the Excel file. We're going to create a data frame with it. So we have data frame df equals pd read. So we're now using the Panda package to read the CSV file that we called FBref5. Quickly look, and we can see the data is now, we're just looking at the first 5 rows. What we want to do next, we are going to select the players, or the number of minutes that the players that we are going to create percentiles for. We're just going to select how many minutes they have played. So we're creating a variable called mins, so minutes basically equals a float. We're telling it it's going to be a number, and this input allows us to ask the question, enter the minimum number of minutes played. So we will hit run, and this box will open. So we can choose whatever minutes I would always select over 90 minutes, because if a player has only played, say, 45, then that's going to basically 90 equals 1, 45 equals 0.5. So if they have an average of 1 goal in those 45 minutes, it's actually per 90, it is going to say that they have 2 goals per 90, and then their percentage is going to be higher, so it's going to be inflated. So always use over 90 minutes when selecting this. Most of the European teams have played 10 games or above, so I'm just going to put halfway input for 450 minutes in. What we're going to do next is we're going to select what positions we want to pull in. As you can see here, the POS column has defenders, forwards, goalkeepers, and other ones that you can't see there, but you can see them in here. what we are going to do, we are now going to filter the data frame so only include players with the minimum minutes, 450 minutes, and a position of defensive midfielder or a defender. And those are the positions that I pulled in to look at players who I feel could play in the fullback roles. There may be ones that I'm missing, but that's what I'm using for my visualizations. You can put in there what you want. So the data frame now is going to change from this data frame to just include the min x, which is this column. It's only going to look for those with 450 or more. And then in the POS column, which is this one, it's only going to look for those with DF or DF comma MF. So we will run that. And then just to show you, copy. So as you can see now, these are just DF, and all the minutes of these ones are over 450. So that shows you the filter has worked. As we've mentioned in previous videos, there are 126 columns. Well, we want to narrow it down. As you saw in here, there's only 12. So we got to narrow it down from there. So this next piece of code, we're just going to select the columns. We need the player X and the squad so we can do some filtering later and allow us to pick the particular player, but really these are the 12 that I've chosen for the characteristics of a fullback. This is from my knowledge. I've coached for over 25 years. I think I've watched soccer for over 50 years now. I'm also UEFA B license certified. I'm also UEFA A license trained. And again, these can vary. You can put whatever you want in here. For myself, I created this document here. This document runs alongside with all of the columns in the FBref 5 Excel sheet. So if this is the column header, this is what it means. So ppm, points per match, goals, or GLS_1 is the number of goals, PRGC_X is the number of progressive carries per 90. So that's how I know what the columns are. So this TKL int is the tackles and interceptions. So I'm going to run that. So now we've selected those columns, what we need to do is just create a data frame with those columns in. So data frame now equals data frame square brackets and selected columns. So it's pulling from this variable here, it's just pulling this list of columns. We hit run, and now the data frame is just those selected columns. To make things easier for people to see and understand this, as you can see now, the names are different than the column names. So we're just going to change those. So in the data frame, which is now just those 16 columns, we want to change them, rename them. So equals df rename columns. So we're renaming the columns. So let's see, the TKL_2 is now going to be called dribblers tackled, and compo 1 is now going to be pass completion percentage, midfield pass completion percentage. This \n is when the visualization is complete. You can see here that some of these have 2 lines. That \n pushes this text at the end underneath that when it's visualized. So that's what that's there for. So we'll hit run. So we're moving on really well here. So the next thing we do, we need to select a player. So we're pulling in a player, or we're creating a player variable. The input is going to ask us this question. Let's put Alex Moreno, who was competition for Lucadine last season. Put in the team, same thing, create a variable, ask us what that team name is. He's played this season at and and Nottingham Forest. What we want to do next is create the parameters. Which of these columns do we want to use in the visual? So params equal the list of the df columns. So now it's saying the parameters equals the list, so it's pulling in the whole list. But now we're saying the params equals the params 4 through 17. So it's going to miss the first ones and just pull in these ones here. Remember, this starts at 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is number 4, this is number 17. So it's going to pull those in, and then we're going to display them. So there we can see we've pulled in the ones that we wanted to see. They match these 12 here. So the next piece of code is going to pull in that particular player's data, and also it's going to look to see if that same player, or if there's a player by the same name. So player 2 equals df lock, so it's going to lock in the player name that's in this player X column. So it's going to look for Alex Moreno. If it finds it, it's going to lock it in. If there isn't a player called Alex Moreno, and there may be a number of reasons for that, it could be that he hasn't played 450 minutes, his position may no longer be DF or defensive midfielder. They may have changed it to DF, FW, which is a more of a forward-minded defender. So he may not be in there. So if he's not, it's going to say no data for player 1, so no data for Alex Moreno. If it is, it's going to, if there's just one, then it's going to lock that player in. Else, if there's more than one, it's going to say choose a row. So if there's like Alex had played for Aston Villa, played a number of games, and then moved to Forest, it would show both, it would split those because the team name was different. You'd be able to choose either Aston Villa or Nottingham Forest, and which data you would like to see for that player. And then this last one, player 2 equals player dot locks from the row index, so it's locking that 0 or 1 if there was 2 players, or just 0 if there's only 1. And now we can see the data. So this 4.31 is the amount of tackles and interceptions per game. And as you can see, I'll just go back to this for a moment. It said player 2 5 colon, and then it's blank. It means, well, I want just the data points 5 through the end. If it had gone to 4, it would have pulled in some of the text columns and it would have messed things up. So it just wanted to pull in the player stats. Now we just want to check the parameters and the player stats equal one another. So basically seeing, even though we could count them ourselves, so that these number of stats for the player and the number of columns we pulled in match, they should equal 12. They do. If they didn't, when you run the visualization at the end, it would throw it off and say the parameters don't equal the number of data points, so it wouldn't run and it'd be an error. We'd have to fix that, but they're equal, so we are good to go. As this is a percentile ranking, this section of code I just pasted in here is going to convert those values into percentile ranking against all the other players who have played 450 minutes and fall in the category of DF or DF, midfield. So the values, we're creating a blank list here, and then we are going to cycle through all of his scores here. So X in range, so the length of the parameters. So for all of these parameters that we have, and the parameters are here, so all of these columns, it's going to use the math package, and it's going to create a calculation that is going to determine the percentile of score for each of those data points. we're going to look at those percentiles. So these are his percentiles. So now we have all that we need to create the visualization. So this is the code that is going to create the visual. As you can see, the radar is the first thing here. So remember, we pulled that in here. So we're creating a variable radar, and then we're using that package here, and it's going to say we're pulling into the radar all the parameters. So remember, again, the parameters are, where did I pass them? Are here. So it's pulling all of these in, and then it's going to create a range from 0 to 100 for the length of those. This particular is going to set up the size of it. So it's the figure height is 14, the grid height is 0.9. It's going to place where the title is, where the end note is, the title space, that means the distance between the title and the actual graphic where it starts, and the same then for the end note at the bottom. And we're going to use the grid key equals radar. This here is going to plot the radar. So it's going to set up the radar axis. It's going to create the inner rings and give them the colors. And then radar output equals, it's going to pull in the values. So remember, the values are these here, and it's going to mark them as percentiles on the axis. And then we are again here at the bottom here, we are going to add colors to the radar. So this next piece of code will customize the tick label to remove the decimal point. It's going to place the radar. It's going to, again, the ticks, we're going to give them a font size, and we are going to give them a color. We are now going to draw the labels. This piece of text will add the title. So the title is this piece up here, and as you can see, it's pulling in player 1, which we know is Alex Moreno, the variable, and it's pulling the variable in for the team, Notts Forest. It's going to center it, and it's going to give it this particular color. Then we're adding a subtitle, which is the text below it, this line here. So again, this is where it's placing it. This is what's going to be in it. It's going to say the font size, where if we want it centered, to the left or the right, and this is the color. We're going to add the credits here. This is down in the bottom right corner. Data stats one via FBref, my ex handle, and it's inspired by McKay Johns. You'll find him on YouTube. Watch some of his videos. It taught me quite a bit of stuff, and has allowed me to build onto his and create my own type of style. And in here then, percentile is P90 and played by more than mins minute. This mins, remember, is that variable for 450, so it will show 450 minutes. If you put 600 minutes, that's what would show in the visual at the end. This plots it, so this created what it says, and this plots it where it's going to be. Again, remember that \n is going to write the first line, backslash, so it's going to shift and enter, push it down, next line, and so on. The font is size 9, color, and we're going to put it to the bottom right. This last piece of code is going to just save the visualization as a JPEG file. So let's run that. And here we go. So Alex Moreno, we can see tackles, and tackles 1 is pretty high up there. Pass completion could do with some work. Scored against sort of midway, just over 50% percentile as that's scored against. You want that as a lower score. Higher means your team gets scored on a lot when you're playing. One of the best tackles in the defensive third, one of the best progressive carriers, and he's made a good number of assists, and pretty high there for anybody in one of those defensive roles. Past the shot, a little over 50%. Completed crosses, above 50% percentile, and dribblers tackled, I'd say around the 90% percentile mark. You can see here the text has been put in. We have the correct title up here. So that's the end of this particular video. I have a number of more videos I'm going to create using this data along the line. Again, I'll mention this in all my videos. I'm still improving, still learning, so I know there's better people out there who can write this faster and quicker than I can, but this is just stuff I've learned over the last 2 to 3 years that I want to share and help other people who may be new at it, and help them the best of my capabilities and assist them along the way. So if you want any help, need any more guidance, comment in the video below, or you can find me over on X at beautiful_game, and I'm certainly happy to chat to you over there. The next video I'm likely to create is this one. So we're just going to move on from one player. We are going to compare players against one another. This visual is slightly old, so this could have changed since then. So we're just looking at Luca Dean versus Alex Moreno. At this point, they were very, very similar. A few areas, Alex edged a few things, but in some other areas, Luca Dean was pretty high, and probably justified staying at Aston Villa while they shipped Alex Moreno out. So this is what I'm likely to share in my next video. So this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you subscribe, like, and ring the bell so you get notified on any future videos that I make. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.